YouTube, as we all know, the NBA is a league of many surprises, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 10 surprise teams to start the 2025 season. And what I mean by surprise teams is these teams started the NBA season either much better than we expected or like way worse than we possibly could have imagined. I'm going to talk about each team's record. Let's just dive right into all 10 surprise teams to start the 2025 NBA season. Let's go, folks. And we have to start this video with the 3-3 Denver Nuggets. You know, full disclaimer here, listen, we're about 7 or 8 games into the NBA season. You know, we're not expecting every team to be perfect, and it is a very limited sample size. And I think by the end of the season, a lot of these things will correct themselves for this list, but we still expect a little bit better play from what the Nuggets have been putting on display here throughout their first 6 games, only going 3-3. And it's not just the fact that they're a 500 team right now. The Denver Nuggets have struggled against lottery teams this season, and you lose to a 2-4 Clippers team in game 3 of the season. You just win by 2 points against the Toronto Raptors in overtime, a team you probably should have blown off the floor, to be honest with you. Another overtime win against the Brooklyn Nets. More on the Nets later. The point is, Denver just doesn't look right, and despite MVP caliber production once again from the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, the Nuggets have struggled, and I think a lot of it has to do with the play of Jamal Murray. He needs to step up and play better. This is a team with a thinner rotation that has to have excellent production from Jokic and Murray. As we know, Jokic is always going to hold up that end of the bargain. But listen, Jamal Murray through 6 games, averaging 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, on 37% from the field and 30% from 3. If the Nuggets want to go anywhere this season, he just flat out has to play much better than that. And so that is kind of the analysis of the Nuggets. Not blaming it all on Jamal Murray. You know, there are some issues with this team, but when the Nuggets are the Nuggets, Jamal Murray is playing like an all-star, and that has to be the case this season. Moving on to another team that has completely disappointed, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks to open the season, who are 1-5, and albeit without Chris Middleton, you know, that's probably their 3rd best player, no question. And so maybe we give them a little bit of a pass here for, you know, losing games without their 3rd best player. But at the end of the day, man, you have a top 3 player in the entire world in Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have a top 10 point guard in the league, and, you know, one of the greatest shooters of all time in Damian Lillard. And to be honest with you guys, 1-5 is just totally unacceptable for this team. You have to wonder if Doc Rivers is having a negative effect on this team. And again, this is a small sample size. I'm sure the Bucks won't go with a losing record, you know, by the end of the season. They're going to figure things out. They have, you know, too talented of a roster to not be one of the top teams in the East, but they're just getting outplayed, and honestly, similar to the Nuggets, to teams they should not be losing to. The Chicago Bulls, the Brooklyn Nets got blown off the floor by the Memphis Grizzlies, blew a big lead against the Cavaliers, and lost by a hair in that game. You have to wonder again if Doc Rivers is on the hot seat, and man, oh man, this team cannot endure another coaching change midway through the season, so I hope for the Bucks fans' sake that isn't the case. But it is absolutely noteworthy how a 1-5 record for the Bucks is totally unacceptable. They need to get things together, and one of the ways they could do that, for one, is hopefully get Chris Middleton back healthy pretty soon. I mean, you're certainly going to need him. And 2, you know, you just have to get some more production from guys that aren't named Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard. I mean, listen, I love Bobby Portis and I love Brook Lopez as players. They're awesome players in their own right. You just need a 3rd option on this team. I mean, no one is really stepping up in that role. Speaking of Portis and Lopez, they are both shooting the ball pretty poorly from the 3-point arc. That has to change. These guys are crucial floor spacers for the Milwaukee Bucks. And that goes for Gary Trent Jr. as well. This team needs a 3rd option. They need more production from the role players. Giannis and Dame can't do it all, and those guys are playing up to their caliber. And so 1-5 has to be better. I'm hoping for a speedy recovery for Chris Middleton if I'm a Bucks fan. Moving on to a team that has really shocked me. I've watched a lot of their games, surprisingly. Of course, I'm speaking about the Brooklyn Nets, and the Nets are 3-4 at the time of recording this. You might say, well, that's a losing record, D-Have. Who cares about the Nets? I got news for you. The Nets are playing really good basketball with a team full of young talent. I actually went into the season thinking the Nets wouldn't win 20 games. That's still entirely possible, depending on if they trade, you know, all the veterans away from this team. Dennis Schroeder, who's playing out of his mind, by the way. Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, guys like this could be moved by the deadline. We could see the, you know, wins plummet. But if you told me, hey, D-Have, 7 games into the regular season, the Nets are going to be fighting for a play-in spot. Again, a lot of this stuff's going to even out. But again, if you told me that the Brooklyn Nets to start the season would beat the Milwaukee Bucks by a big margin, 13 points, they would take the Nuggets to overtime where they barely lost that game, beat the Memphis Grizzlies the very next game by 13 points, I probably would have said you are lying and you don't know what you're talking about. Listen, the more I watch this team play, the more I think there is legit success brewing in Brooklyn. This team plays free, they play loose, they play fast, and they have talented players on both ends of the floor. You know, we're talking about a team with a bunch of good and versatile defenders like Nick Claxton, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and offensively, this team looks pretty good. I mean, for one, Cam Thomas is just a pure bucket. market. We all know that, right? He's averaging 26 points per game on good efficiency. Dennis Schroeder is running this team like a well-oiled machine from the point guard position. And you just have a bunch of guys that are contributing to winning basketball. And so I had to put them on the list. 3-4 is crazy for the Nets to start the season. Again, I thought this team would finish with like 17 wins. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. The Nets have a young, hungry team, and they're playing hard and they're playing well. We have to discuss the Golden State Warriors, who are 5-1 at the time of recording this video. By the way, in a historically great Western Conference, they are 5-1, and Steph Curry has only played 3 of those games. You beat the Houston Rockets in overtime without Steph Curry. You beat the New Orleans Pelicans by a good margin without Steph Curry, albeit a very injured New Orleans Pelicans. You beat them again the very next game without Steph Curry. My point is, going into the season, the talk around the Warriors was that how much is Steph gonna need another star? You lose Klay Thompson, and you need a second option to carry the offensive load with Steph Curry to get them over the hump. He just can't do everything offensively. That was the narrative going into the season, and I agreed with it. All of a sudden, the Golden State Warriors are winning games in the historically great Western Conference without Steph Curry, who has basically carried this team, it seems like, to every win they've gotten over the past few years. And so look out for the Warriors, folks. They might be back. This is a very deep roster with a lot of versatility on both ends. We know they're well coached. I mean, one of the greatest coaches ever. And Steph Curry and DeAnthony Melton have been out. DeAnthony Melton being a key role player. These guys will come back soon, and the Warriors could continue this pace. 5-1 is really good to start the season without having your best player for 3 of those games. Another surprise Western Conference team that I thought would kind of be similar to last year in terms of their production, the way they look, that is the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I have been saying, to be fair, JJ Redick would have a bigger impact than a lot of people think, and that is the reason that they didn't need to go out and get a big splash free agent, or anything like that. People say, oh, they got worse. They have the same roster and they didn't make any moves, and now you're bringing an inexperienced head coach. Listen, I knew that JJ Redick was going to be a good coach, and he's already showing that. The Lakers look like one of the best teams in the Western Conference, and JJ Redick is running this team a lot differently than Darvin Ham. We're already seeing a different new look Lakers, not in terms of personnel or roster, in terms of the way they play on the floor. They look like a much more motivated and just honestly a better team in general. Austin Reeves is playing fantastic basketball. The Lakers are 4-2, and I think this is a really good, sustainable, stretch of play here for the Lakers. This isn't something that's just going to come and go like we see from the Lakers or some older teams in the West. This team looks like the way they're playing is sustainable, in my opinion. Look out for the Lakers to be in the hunt for a playoff spot for the first time in a few years. They usually end around the play-in tournament. They look like they're going to win a lot of games this season. I'm telling you, keep your eye on the Lakers for one of the top 6 seeds in the West. They're playing excellent basketball on both ends. Starts with defense, but they're getting a lot more out of their role players this season, and I think it's going to continue. Here's a team from the Eastern Conference that might not have the best record in the East or, anything close to it. And you look at the record and it might indicate a mediocre play, but I'll explain the reason I have them on the list. That is the 3-3 Chicago Bulls. You might say, well, D-Have, 3-3, that's not very impressive. And, you just named the Brooklyn Nets, who have 3 wins in the East, so it's not necessarily a big feat to be 3-3 through the first 6 games of the season for Chicago. The reason I have them on the list is they're actually playing really good basketball and really competitive basketball. And a lot of people called me crazy for thinking this lineup was going to be good going into the season. The Bulls had a chance at a play-in spot. You could say, we expected the Bulls to be mediocre. I'm telling you right now, almost everything I've seen online has been telling me I'm crazy for thinking the Bulls would be good this year if everything worked out for them. And it looks like it already is going really well, because Zach LaVine, who is finally healthy, is playing like Zach LaVine again. For, starters, he's shooting the air out of the ball. Zach is averaging 23 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and he's shooting excellent. 46% from 3-point range on 8 attempts per game. That looks like a few years ago Zach LaVine to me. Nick Vucevic is playing excellent basketball, 22 points per game, 11 rebounds, 3 assists on 55 from the field and 50% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. That's incredible. Kobe White doing Kobe White things, 19 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and shooting well. Big addition, Josh Giddey is playing excellent, as this team's facilitator, and honestly just silencing a lot of critics. I mean, 15 points per game from Giddey here, 8 rebounds and 6 assists per game on 2.5 turnovers. That is excellent play out of him, and he's also shooting really well from 3 in particular. 48%. I mean, that's a really great production from Josh Giddey there. Your new addition at the backup 5, Jalen Smith, has been excellent in that role. And if you're the Chicago Bulls, you are 3-3 in the Eastern Conference without getting basically anything out of your, 2 best role players, really, Patrick Williams and Ayo Dosunmu, both of them shooting very poor and, not playing great. And so as they kind of start to find their way here in this season, I'm telling you, the Bulls can win a lot of games with this lineup at its best. This is a good lineup here, particularly on offense. It actually has the potential to be really good, and I think they continue to win games here. And so I have Chicago Bulls, even though they're 3-3, that's the reason why. Another team that's been extremely poor to start the season is my Philadelphia 76ers, unfortunately. Now, we talked about the Bucks and how they're disappointing. Listen, no one has been more disappointing in this Eastern Conference than my Philadelphia 76ers. Going into the season, we expected so much. This was such a magical offseason for me and my fan base, and all of a sudden, here go the injuries again, you know? At the time of recording this video, Paul George and Joel Embiid have not played an NBA game this season for the 76ers, and there's been a ton of drama seemingly every day around Joel Embiid, which we're not going to get into. You might say, well, Dehave, you know, how can you really say they're disappointing without having their two best players? And you're 1-4. Of course they're going to be 1-4. Listen, I hear you, but the thought around this team was supposed to be they have such a good roster now that Joel Embiid doesn't have to play a ton of games to win regular season games, and that is just not what we're seeing. This team looks like a bottom lottery team without Joel Embiid. I hope that gets a little better when Paul George comes back. He's supposed to make his debut against Phoenix at the time of recording this video tonight, and so we'll see what they look like with Paul George, but I'm telling you, without Embiid, this team is super lackluster, and he's supposed to miss a lot of games this season. Can we even get into a playoff spot with this roster without Embiid playing the big bulk of the regular season? I'm not so sure. This is a very disappointing start to the season for my Sixers. 1-4 has to be better. A lot of Eastern Conference teams on this list, and we're going to continue that trend with the Indiana Pacers, who have come out of the gate 2-4 to start this season. Now, they did beat Boston, which is a massive feat. Listen, anyone who beats Boston, they had to play a perfect game of basketball, and it seemed like the Pacers did, you know, with that game winner from Pascal Siakam. But to be honest with you guys, I just made a video about how Tyrese Halliburton has really struggled this season. Doesn't look like himself at all. The Pacers are completely abandoning their identity, it seems, of fast-paced offense and run-and-gun style, you know, transition success, right? They are playing at a very slow pace, despite their, again, identity last season being their pace of play. They just don't look like the same team. They're shooting the ball pretty poorly. You know, Halliburton has, since my video, you know, kind of turned it around a little bit. Make sure you guys go check out that video if you guys want a bigger look and a, you know, greater deep dive on the Pacers and how they've started the season. But at the end of the day, you know, Halliburton's got to be better, and they have to get back to their identity, which is, you know, transition offense and running the break effectively with these athletes and these excellent playmakers that they have. They also just have to shoot the ball better. That's obvious. But this is a team I had great expectations for going into the regular season. Now I'm not so sure. You know, they really have to figure things out quickly, or they will be an afterthought in this much improved Eastern Conference. The Pacers 2-4, very disappointing. Moving on to you know, the final Western Conference team of this list, the Phoenix Suns, who are 5-1 at the time of recording this. Now, I was wrong about the Suns. I will get that out of the way first and foremost. I thought the Suns would be similar to where they were last year. You know, they made the playoffs. You know, they couldn't get over the hump. This team, I still think, is a little bit redundant skill set wise. Look forward to a video on that. But at the end of the day, they are 5-1. They're playing excellent basketball, led by Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. A big surprise for this team has been Ryan Dunn, who I knew would be a good player, but he is shooting the three ball exceptionally well. And I always say, if he can shoot the three ball consistently, he will find an excellent role in this league. He will be an all-NBA caliber defender. And so far, you're getting a lot of good production out of, you know, some of the newer guys on this team. Tyus Jones in particular has made a massive impact on this team's offensive output, right? And their efficiency in particular. He's been such a stabilizing force, not turning over the basketball. That was one of their bigger issues last year, and you solve it basically just by adding Tyus Jones, and it's already translating to winning basketball. 5-1 Phoenix in a historically great West. This is a playoff team, no question. I thought, again, they would be similar to where they were last year. Not the case. This team looks much improved on both ends of the floor, really, in my opinion. They're much more versatile. They have a deeper rotation, and I think the Suns are legit. I think they're absolutely a legit playoff contender this season. Definitely think it can continue for the Phoenix Suns. And we had to save the best for last, the absolute masterclass that the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are, you know, currently 7-0 at the time of recording this, are putting on display this season is nothing short of dominance. Now, at the time you're watching this, I just made a video about this team, and, you know, again, another deep dive into the Cavs and their first 7 games. Make sure you guys check that out if you guys haven't already. Listen, you could say the Suns and the Cavs in particular, you know, people say, oh, well, they're a playoff team. They're always going to be a playoff team this season. I kind of agree. You know, I think I was a little lower on the Cavs in the offseason than I definitely should have been. Another situation where I was totally wrong, and I'll admit it. The Cavs are just flat out dominating every team they play against by a big margin. They are playing lights out basketball on both ends of the floor. They're not turning the ball over, and they're creating turnovers. Defensively, they are rebounding exceptionally well. They're top tier in rebounding, turnover differential, and shooting. And so, you know, they're going with a much more systematic approach to the offense. It is working out beautifully in Cleveland. They look like the best team in the NBA right now on paper. And again, I said it in the video that I made, the majority of the teams they beat are playoff caliber teams. And so this isn't a team that's just blowing out, you know, bad Eastern Conference teams. There were a couple games here and there, but they beat Milwaukee, they beat the Lakers, they beat the New York Knicks, and they beat the Orlando Magic. These are all really good teams, and they just look like they're playing lights out, efficient basketball basketball on both ends, and I expect it to continue. This will be one of the best teams in the NBA this season. Mark my words, by the end of the season, they will probably be the second seed in the Eastern Conference, I would imagine. How long can they stay undefeated, though? That's the real question. You know, I hope for a long time. That's always fun. But listen, you know, the Cavaliers, they're legit. They're here to stay, and they are playing dominant basketball. Not a surprise in terms of, you know, they would be a good team, but they are a great team. And when I say great, I mean league best. I don't know that a lot of people could have predicted that. And so that's kind of my point here. And that is all of the 10 teams worthy of, you know, talking about for this video in terms of surprise results through the first 7 games of the NBA season. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like on the video. It helps out the video, helps new people find the video. Let me know down in the comment section, who's the biggest surprise team? Is it the Milwaukee Bucks? Is it the Denver Nuggets? I think for me personally, it's got to be the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, they have just absolutely flat out been super disappointing. And, you know, the Cavaliers as well on the other end of things have probably been the biggest surprise for me personally. Again, I knew they'd be a good team. I just didn't think they'd be, you know, the best team in basketball through 7. So yeah, let me know if I missed any teams that you think should be on here. There certainly could have been more. Honorable mentions that come to mind are the Washington Wizards, who've already won 2 games. Another team I expected to win somewhere around 20, who look a little bit better than I thought maybe. I was going to put the Timberwolves. They're 3-3 at the time of recording this, but they look a lot better as the season has progressed a little bit than the way they started, and so I didn't think it was really relevant. Clippers, we kind of expect them to be below 500 without Kawhi Leonard. You know, I expected the Rockets and the Spurs to be a little bit competitive, and so nothing really too crazy from the West there. Unfortunately, the Pelicans are dealing with injuries, and so can't really say it's shocking. Maybe you could have put them on the list. I don't know. Please let me know down in the comment section if I missed anybody or who you think I was wrong about. If you guys want to see more content like this, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, because we'll be uploading stuff like this every single day on the channel, and if not every day, it'll be very close to every day. I'm really going to try to do that. NBA is my passion, and I love making these videos for you guys. It's my favorite thing in the world, and I want to, you know, make something special out of my channel, and I want your guys' help, you know, to do that, because I'm really trying to make a positive, objective channel in this NBA community. There's a lot of toxicity and biasness and agenda pushing in this community, and I'm just not in favor of that. I prefer objective, you know, fair takes on the NBA from an observer's perspective. I bleed Sixer blue, but I will 100%, you know, give every team a fair shake in my opinion. And I like to have fun on this channel and be positive, right? There's a lot of negativity, again, toxicity in this community. There are some great people too, you know, there's some great creators in the NBA community that I really enjoy, but I want to be a little bit different than a lot of channels in terms of my positivity and objectivity. So if you guys want to see more, you know, of that just in the NBA community, make sure you guys subscribe if you guys haven't already. Other than that, thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. Follow my Twitter, link is down in the description, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Dehave Nation, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. This has been the 10 most surprising teams of the NBA season so far, and I will see you guys tomorrow. This is your boy Dehave, and as always, peace.